My name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're taking a look at another dance K-pop cover group called ZAxisDanceCrew. Now, I put a poll out on Patreon a couple weeks ago, having them vote on which cover groups they want me to do an analysis on, because something I've noticed is that we do have a lot of people that react and analyze the actual artists, but I don't really see very many people analyzing those who cover these choreographies. And as an individual who has done Crazy Form before, I've done the choreography, I've also done a full analysis, not just of Crazy Form, but the entire ATEEZ discography. I'm pretty familiar with how ATEEZ moves in their movement quality and how they've started to where they are now. And so I'm really intrigued on how a cover group would approach doing their choreography. And so this was one of the ones that was selected. Like, I don't know if I had mentioned that. This one was selected with a couple others, but I'm excited to take a look at them. And for me, whenever I look at cover groups, a couple things I keep in mind. Firstly, my goal when I look at these is not to see, do they look just like ATEEZ? Mostly it's going to be, does this choreography look like it could be theirs? That's kind of how you want your cover group to look, or give that appearance of. I think it just makes it more fun and it makes it feel more organic, and they do have a pretty extensive following, which shows that there's probably a lot of people that really enjoy what they do, and I'm excited to take a look at them themselves. Secondly, when I do look at these, I try to only look at covers that I have done a full dance analysis on. So I don't try to go into one completely blind, because I don't feel like that would be the most beneficial thing. Because I do these, that try to be beneficial, not to be critical, and not to be like put people down at all. That's really not the goal of any of these analysis. It's just to provide a different perspective, or to allow them just some sense of constructive feedback from an individual who does auditing and who does dance analysis for a living. Like, this is something that I do, is I look at choreographies with dance studios and I refine them to make them competitive for competition. So this is just kind of an extension of that. So without further ado, I think it's time to get started. So I moved myself down because I know in the upper corner they do have a close-up version of what they're catching on camera. Then I wanted to be respectful of that.
Get up. Get up. Get up.
Okay. Put him up, give that cameraman a raise, I tell you, because I'm seeing just glimpses of it. How they keyframe that is sick. Yeah. Very impressive, because for this one they don't really get a lot of breaks like ATEEZ would, because they have their backup dancers, they have to be the backup dancers, and they have to be ATEEZ too. So I understand that. There is a lot of logistics too, because this is a very public place and there can be people that walk in front of the camera. So they probably had to take multiple takes of this. If you're like in public. Okay. Yep. Gotta finish it out. Here we go. Whew. It is tricky to have to do a happy feet at the tail end of the choreo. BB Trippin' is tripping for having to add that mess in there. Very nice. That's not bad. Like that, they actually did a pretty good job. That's a very good job. Honestly, that's freaking hard to do a one take like that. It's hard. I mean, it's impressive whenever ATEEZ did it. It's very impressive that they covered it. And they did a pretty good job for the most part. I mean, let's go ahead and take a look back here. Actually, let me do this real quick. Okay, so what I did is I went back and I just rewatched Crazy Form Dance Practice just to make sure I get my, like, recap for myself, the notes that I was giving them and things like that. Okay, so going from the top here, like I had already mentioned, I'm really going to be focusing more on how they are cohesive as a group to the choreography, not in the comparison to them with ATEEZ, because I feel that at the end of the day, whenever a group, you know, covers the choreography, if that makes sense, like ATEEZ learn this choreography for their track. They, you know, yes, it was made for them and their movement quality. Yes. Here, they are covering that, but I do find it important that a lot of the things, what's going to help them in the sense of like a constructive, like my feedback is going to be more helpful for them if I tell them how to make the movements better, because I gave ATEEZ similar feedback of how they can do the choreography better too, you know? So I feel like it's just going to be better if everybody gets the same treatment versus, you know, you need to do it like this, the way ATEEZ does it, but then I also gave constructive feedback about how ATEEZ did it. Does it make sense what I'm saying? And none of it's bad. Nothing that I'm saying is bad. It's all, there's always areas for improvement, even for myself. There's going to come a day where we're all going to be watching Jess roast Jess from like 2016, and it'll be a very interesting day. But we'll get there eventually. Going from here, from the very, very top, we're going to kind of a little bit lower. Oh, she was out to walk through the whole thing. Do, 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 do. Get up. That part's fine. Get up. Fix it up. They're nice and clear. Boom. 1, 2, 3. So far, they did a pretty good job on the transitions on this part. Now, something about this part here, they do have a syncopation in place on this part. Boom, da da da. They have this extra percussion that a lot of people that cover this, not just them, they don't. They just hit it up here. They don't actually hit the syncopation of adding the extra percussion. The reason why I remember that is I just watched it on Crazy Form, but also it is one of my favorite parts. This first verse of when ATEEZ does their first verse is my favorite section of the entire choreography. The syncopation of the percussion and the tonal color representation is phenomenal. So that's my note here, is they modified the choreo. They made it more staccato, and they didn't add that extra little moments in the percussion that we just saw there. This part's fine. Doom. Yeah, they just hit, boom, it's like an accent, and then they reverb it off, or they rebound off the energy. And then when they go on the show, my center guy didn't quite make the opposition of the chest as full as he needed to for that section, because when you think through dun, dun, and the show, like making it really full and fill up that entire tone of the sound, and that's what's going to make everybody be on the same page, as if everybody executes it that way, and they use their back to extend the arms out, not just the arms shooting out. Yeah, la-di-da-di-go, like that part looks pretty fine. And that pull away, which is right here. Yeah, I think they could have added a little bit more of the chest dipping into this butterfly with the down, because how they're doing the butterfly is similar to how you would see it in Afro, dee-dee-dee, where the down bounce is happening on that bass, da-da-da-da-da-da. And so I feel like that would be a note for them to refine that. It is tricky because of the BPM of it, and I know there's a chance that they're trying to replicate how ATEEZ does it, but I think I don't know if I gave ATEEZ that note, but that's just in general. It would just make it feel da-da-da-da-da-da. It would feel more in tune and in the music, not just dancing on top of it. They're doing a good job keeping the arms pretty up, though. I'd say there's a little bit, quite an extra bending that's happening that I think could take away from the overall essence of the moves. But having it here, picking it up, I would say my dancer right here in the center could do, could really make that more full in the hip, as they chose to hit it projecting forward. That's put them up, put them up. There's like a little resistance, put them up, you know, like there's a pull of energy. There's a suspension or like a breath that takes place before they go to the other side. That's a texture that they added that I think could have really helped here. Yeah, that dun dun dun, really like that choice. I do know we have backup dancers, but we had to set up. I know this is all modified in comparison to what we were seeing from ATEEZ. Absolutely fine. The energy of this is really nice. They're building it up really well. There's this guy so freaking close. Oh, it's... And they're also on concrete, so it makes sense why they didn't really slide it, because they're on concrete. Totally get that. Yeah, bring it up. Da, 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 da. Really nice on the build up there. Digging it through the opposition. Very clear to see what's going on. Now this part I think could be very clear going from the knees transitioning over. I would just think be very, very clear on the full range for everybody on that ISO part, and I think it would have read a little bit better. Kicking through, range was slightly off on the kicks. Also notice some people have their feet separated, some have them together. Just clarify which, are you going to have them together? But the syncopation looks really nice having your next guy featured. That was really nice. Everyone's pretty much in sync with each other. I love to see that. Warning sign. This part right here, notice one of them is not sinking as deep into the hips. That would be my recommendation for this performer. He needs to go a little bit lower. I would say he's doing a pretty good job. I mean, most of them are doing a pretty good job. That would just be my overall note that I noticed right here specifically, because he's in the front. Sliding it through. Yeah, using it down, dun, 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 dun. I know he's technically the feature. Totally makes sense why there's some sense of modification. Everybody else doing a good job of leaning it out. I do feel like one of our guys could have leaned out a little bit more. Also, where your head placement is does matter. Some people are looking to the front. Some are looking to the side. I would say we need to pick one or the other. Normally, whenever there's a feature facing front, if everybody's committed to the side, it really does help it be a lot more clear of who our feature is in the formation. And I do note that a lot in a lot of the analysis that I do. Building it through a nice little guada moment. I think everybody needed to drop a little bit lower on this section. And then melting it through. Whoa, this part here. It does feel like hit, like this section right here does feel a bit static in placement. We're not investing the torso as much in this that I feel like we could for the actual choreo there. Yeah, my ego in this show and the really big pull of energy. And then the la-di, boom. And that's supposed to bleed through all the way. La-di, boom. And hit, ta, 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 ta. So that's supposed to bleed through. Right there, they're using their chest way more than it's supposed to be a huge syncopation of the pelvis. Boom, boom, like wringing out a towel and using your hips to help provide extra leverage to that. So they really try to compensate and modify that. And also with this part right here, it's a guada with an ISO with the polyrhythm coming up to the top. And that's what makes it look the way that it does. Whenever they drop it down, it's nice and seamless like an elevator. And then the lower half is nice and grimy. So that's a polyrhythm that I think they could have refined a little bit better here on the outsides. Ego in this show. And yeah, la-di-da-ti go. And out, boom, 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 boom. Yep, and then also be very clear when you're going front to back as well on those hips. And some people are going here, some are going here. Clarify, the position of the hand does matter and how it presents forward. So I would say just be very clear in how you choose to do that. That part's really nice. I do feel like we were a little too far out. We bring it up, be very clear. And you can even lift the shoulders a little bit while making that happen. I normally don't say that, but for this choreo, that would really help pushing a little head ISO into it as well. That part, put it up, put it up. I know BB tripping, they do it a little bit more full. ATEEZ makes it more subtle. For them, their choice looks totally fine. Mitch and boom. I love that part with the rolling and then boom, finishing it out. Really nice choice. Hey. It does feel like we aren't as defined on the type of texture that we're executing in this moment. Dun, da, 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 da. Like, where are we hitting our energy and how is it going to be executed throughout the pocket that you're choosing for this section? So that would be my general note. It doesn't feel like everybody's on the same page on that choice. Some are going hit, drop, hit, drop. Others are going hit, drop with a little extra reverb at the end. So that would just be my note. Clarify how this is all supposed to be going. Some people aren't doing any reverbs at all. So that would be my recommendation too, is make sure everybody is investing in some way, shape, or form, regardless if you're dropping your levels or if you're expanding out or if you're not even in the shot. The goal should be, regardless of where that camera is, if it's a fixed cam like what we're seeing here, or it's a keyframed one, or it's like a gimbaled one, you got to be able to hold your own regardless if you're in frame or not. That shows the amount of thoroughness and consideration and investment that you're making within the piece. So that's my general note there. Little Harlem shake there. Do, 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 do. Make sure we utilize those shoulders a little bit more and not try to over isolate it. Yeah. Ding, 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 ding. Very clear to see that. I think we could have really initiated, like set up that Harlem shake a little bit stronger. And then diving it through, I would say my feature here could could refine those ISOs in the chest a little bit more. Also notice the range, so people have it a little bit high, some a little bit low. Just clarify the height, and no, it doesn't have anything to do with your arm span. It has to do with positioning of how you bend your arms. And so it's just a little bit different for everybody. That part too also is a little off on the range or the movement itself. He is a little off on the syncopation. D, 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 So it's supposed to, the positioning of how you hit it is supposed to go up, and everyone else is supposed to be lower. So we can really see that happen. Yeah, like da dee da and boom 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 boom. I think we don't have as much clarity in the differences between those two sections because the syncopation was off in the hips and on these other sides. We're not committed onto everybody's position from point A to point B being the exact same. That part was really nice. I liked that. Turn it around. I love this part, building it up. I do think one of our dancers is just a little bit lagging, slightly behind on the timing. Here, let me see. Yeah, I think the reason why that is because he's not fully using his upper body to get into that in comparison to those he's doing it with. So that's just an in general note. If you want this part to look squeaky clean, then make sure everybody's investing their torso in the exact same way. Digging it through like that right there. Da 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 da. Oh, what is that? It's a... That part looks pretty nice. I know, say the airtime on that was pretty good as well. Do 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 do. Just really being very clear of when you're choosing to hit on that heel, heel toe toe on that section. That was nice. Definitely on the clearer side. I would say my dancer right here. A lot of how they choose to do the choreo works, but then sometimes it doesn't feel like we're going super full on a lot of the foot placement. Because if you notice the last time, their foot didn't really come up all the way in comparison to everybody else's, but their overall vibe and aesthetic matches everybody else. So I think it's just more of a preferential choice that they did there. And I would just be very mindful of how high you pick up your foot, how you choose to ride through the rhythm, things like that. Yeah, da-da-da. This is a really nice moment these two have. But notice that one of them is going a little bit more full than the other. So I think in order for them to be more collaborative together, to have them both exude the same amount of fullness, even if you're not 100% in the frame, it's just going to help keep it more full and that we're just getting a snapshot into a freaking sick piece. Warning sign. I love that. Just like we saw in the other one. This part right here, we're starting to teeter just a smidgen into some of the timing. It's starting to get a little bit more and more off. But it's not because they're not doing the movement. It's because they're not executing it as full as they were in the beginning. They're going off stage. That part's fine. We have this energy. Notice he is struggling a little bit on the stability side right here. It's supposed to be very legato in the groove for that part. So I would suggest him just refine that, really be mindful of weight placement. I suggest put it on the ball of the foot by those first two toes. That's going to be really helpful in placement for you. And everybody joins back in, which is totally fine. Now right there with the backslide, take a look here. We're kind of just sliding your feet back. We're not creating like a backslide of any kind. I don't think it is a backslide, but it just, the energy, as long as everybody in the upper body looks the same, it's normally fine. Right here, it just feels like the spacing's just slightly off over here by our front feature. That part looks fine. This part looks really nice, but then that bleed through, because we're not using our back, we're just using our arms, that part didn't feel as strong in that transition and that ripple because we're not using that back. But leading up to that was really nice. Diving it back in, notice that some of them are tucking the pelvis under, some are not. He's actually tucking from the diaphragm, tucking from the pelvis, tucking from the pelvis. Now those things, tucking from the diaphragm is going to look very different than tucking from the pelvis. Pelvis is going to allow the body to stem back and allow this groove to look a little bit more full. And then if you tuck from the diaphragm, it's going to feel a little bit more neutral or centered as you lift those arms up. So that's why you would need to really make sure that everybody's on the same page. Are we all using our pelvis to make this laid back groove take place? Diving through. And oh, notice the power of the fingers is kind of presenting, but we're not using, there's not as much power, just feels more like a placed hand. It is because you can tell they're starting to get a smidgen tired. I get it though, like trust me, an ATEEZ piece is so exhausting. So I'm very impressed with the fact that they're able to hold it down. All of them are able to hold it down the way that they have, because this is not an easy piece. ATEEZ doesn't do it all the way through because we have dancers, but they have to. So it's very impressive to see this. That part, boom, 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 really nice to see that. Now building up the energy on this, boom, boom, using this upper body, so it's really gonna make that feel really full, and we're progressing into that dance break, full communal energy. Right now it does feel just a bit like content and not like investment. Diving it down, this part looks nice, really great on the groundedness from everybody, with the exception, I think one of them, he didn't quite go as full all the way down, so if we go back, I don't know if it's because he's a feature. Yeah, you could tell there's not as much upper body and he's leaning more forward versus down. So that would be my note to refine that for everybody. And then dropping it down to like a Brooklyn top rock, which is nice. Diving it, butt and a boom and a boom. Really nice to see this energy. I would say some of them are doing a great job. Fullness, using the fullness of the legs. I would say we're a little bit too close for their height. They need to separate them to elbow length apart, and it's going to look more full. And you can actually tell that in this frame as well. You also notice too, because of that front shot, one of them is inverting the knees a little too much, or they're adding too much texture in the transition between these movements. Or if that's what it's supposed to be, everybody needs to make sure they're going in when they need to and out when they need to. So that's an in general note for that section. Because going from down, out with the inversion of the knees looks very different than not having that. So having everybody go forward. Yep, I noticed one of our guys kind of gave up just a smidgen on the side. Yeah, he looks a bit marked, and I think it's because well, he's in the shot, so I think like my note there would be, don't mark it. You know, I feel regardless if you think you're in the shot or not, we caught you there and I see you right here. Just be a little bit more full all the way through, and it's going to be sitting super pretty, super nice, and it's going to look a lot more full as a group, not just in who's in the shot. I know it's super tiring though, so it is a tough ask. Here we go. Boom, 2, 3. Now this part right here, it's supposed to have a breathability that goes up. Boom, boom, like a suspension that goes up. I don't think we see that here at the start of this section. Boom. It feels more down, down, down versus boom, boom, boom. We're kind of avoiding the breath within it, but that's a really hard thing to put in when you are so exhausted. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I totally get that. Diving it down, I love this. Boom, doom, doom, like the suspension. Dropping it down, energy, they're doing a good job holding it down, especially those who are closer to the front. But of course, you know me, everybody needs to hold it down, not just those in the front. I would say in the back, he's lagging just ever so slightly. They're doing a pretty good job, but they're really stiffening up their torso. And they're going boom, 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 boom. Now boom, 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 being very full. Use the back, that's gonna really help. Now we're back into the butterfly. Now everybody did a pretty good job holding this part down. We do have, they do look pretty complete. I think those butterflies look complete. Let me see. Well, I would say my middle guy, he didn't quite finish that last one. I think that's totally fine because he's interpreting that section. Not everybody's hands are in the right place. Notice some are fanning them out, some are fanning them up. Just clarify, what do you want you to do with your hands? Dropping them down. That kick. Yeah. For me, the range on the arms is slightly off, meaning that the actual position of what they're striking in the arms is off because they're not using their back and it's really fast and you have to use your back in order to get that to work. Drop down. That part we were, one of our guys was just off on the timing of that. But it's still, here's the thing. Just because I'm catching these things doesn't mean it's not good. It's wonderful. And then also the spacing, I mean, it's like we're finishing it up. We're off on our spacing right over here. We're off on our spacing over here. One of them was off. So it's just, there's a lot of, we're going off of muscle memory at this point. We're not going off of intentional. We're just trying to finish is what this is coming across as. But they're doing a freaking great job. This part, yeah. This one's supposed to have more of a playful kind of groove. Yeah. And we're keeping it very staccato because it's very similar to what we just executed the time before. This point in time, we're not thinking through the, you know, the breathability, the dynamics, the texture. We're just trying to get the choreo done. And I respect that. I think that's absolutely fine. This is way easier said than done for sure. Notice we're not quite in a straight line. It's just not a clear formation here. We go 1 and we finish. Really nice. We're done. We're exhausted. Run around. Super nice. They're like, yay, we did it. Hooray! Honestly, really nice job. I would say they did a pretty great job of this routine. This one's pretty tough to do, just in general. And I'm really glad that they also have these side cams so I can actually see everybody and not just where the camera wants me to see, because you can really see the full picture, which should also make it's very impressive that we got to experience both. That was nice. And also shout out to the fact that there was nobody running in front of the camera. That's super great too. And I've seen some of their other stuff, but it's really nice to actually look through one and analyze it, because hopefully this actually helps others appreciate just how much hard work goes into doing the choreographies, and the fact that they're pretty close is very impressive. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more of me analyzing dance cover artists, let me know in the comments. This is more like a soft, experimental kind of video structure, because not only do I want these to, I just want them to be helpful, not only to those who watch, but to the group themselves. I don't know if these groups, just like with the K-pop groups, I have zero expectation that they'll see any of these, but also I do prep it, like if they did see it, I want to be helpful. Right? So I am very much a fan, and I appreciate when people take time to really steward something like choreography that's not even theirs, steward it well to try to execute it as authentically and representation as possible. And so for me, I also try to do these to showcase just the impressiveness and just the caliber of what they're bringing to the table. It's just really nice to see, and that others should, you know, if you do choose to do these types of choreographies, that you are falling on great eyes, and there's a lot of admirers around, not just in who comments on your video. So I think this is really fun. And once again, let me know, is there another type of group that you're like, yo, I would love for you to take a look at them doing this choreo that you've seen me do an analysis on, because like I said, that's my policy. I will not look at a cover or analyze it unless I've done a dance analysis that is launched on YouTube. So just keep that in mind. Because I've seen all of ATEEZ's stuff, but I'm not going to react to anything ATEEZ wise until it comes across on the YouTube realm. So all that to say, this has been really fun. If you want in on what I look at, new experiments, like what the type of things that I take a look at, I do a bunch of polls all the time on Patreon that helps influence what I record in a given week. That's a perfect place to go, hang out, meet some fellow fans, and binge watch all the fun dance analysis that are there. Once again, I am Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye!